Imagine France, way back in the late 1400s. It was a time of great change and discovery, a period when the world seemed to be expanding every day. And early 1500s, it was like a teenager, full of energy and buzzing with excitement. The streets were alive with the sounds of merchants, craftsmen, and townsfolk, all contributing to a vibrant and dynamic society. Sailors were coming home from faraway lands with stories of amazing riches and places no one had ever seen before. These tales were filled with wonder and mystery, sparking the imaginations of everyone who heard them. Just like its neighbors in Europe, France was looking west, drawn to the mystery of the unknown. The allure of uncharted territories and the promise of untold wealth were too tempting to resist. Why were they so interested in these faraway places? Well, it was a mix of things. The desire for wealth, the quest for power, and the spirit of adventure all played a part. They wanted to be rich, they wanted to be more powerful than other countries, and they loved adventure. The idea of discovering new lands and claiming them for France was incredibly appealing. The spice trade, selling things like pepper, cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon, was making countries like Portugal and Spain super rich. These exotic spices were highly prized in Europe, and controlling their trade meant immense wealth. France wanted a piece of that action. They saw the fortunes being made by their neighbors and wanted to join in the lucrative trade. Controlling the spice trade meant tons of money and lots of power. It was a way to elevate France's status on the global stage and ensure its prosperity for generations to come. France also had a rival, Spain. The two nations were in a constant struggle for dominance, each trying to outdo the other in exploration and conquest. Spain was building a huge empire overseas, and France didn't like that one bit. The Spanish conquests in the New World were a source of envy and frustration for the French. They had been competing for centuries, and now this rivalry was spilling over into the vast Atlantic Ocean. The race to explore and claim new territories was on, and neither country wanted to be left behind. France knew that to challenge Spain, they needed their own lands in the New World. Establishing colonies and trade routes was essential to their strategy. But it wasn't just about money and power. The idea of exploration itself was incredibly enticing. The thought of venturing into the unknown, discovering new cultures, and mapping uncharted territories was a powerful motivator. Imagine the thrill of exploring places no one had ever seen, meeting new people, and maybe even finding a city made of gold. The legend of El Dorado, a city of immense wealth, captured the imaginations of many explorers. That idea was super exciting for adventurers, map makers, and anyone who loved a good adventure. The promise of fame, fortune, and the chance to make history drove many to set sail into the unknown, forever changing the course of history. Now, let's fast forward to the 1500s and 1600s. This was a period of immense transformation and upheaval in France, a time when the country was navigating through a maze of cultural, political, and religious changes. France was changing a lot during this time. The Renaissance was sweeping across Europe, bringing with it new ideas, art, and architecture. French towns and cities began to reflect these changes, with beautiful Renaissance buildings replacing older medieval structures. It was like it was stuck between the old ways of doing things and the exciting new ways. People were torn between holding on to their traditional ways of life and embracing the new Renaissance ideals that promised progress and enlightenment. The Renaissance, a time of great art and learning, was changing how people thought. French scholars and artists were at the forefront of this intellectual revolution, contributing to advancements in science, literature, and the arts. But it was also a time of fighting and disagreement, especially about religion. The French Wars of Religion were a series of brutal conflicts that pitted Catholics against Protestants, leading to widespread chaos and suffering. A man named Martin Luther was challenging the Catholic Church, and this caused a lot of trouble all over Europe. His ideas sparked the Protestant Reformation, which spread quickly and led to significant religious and political upheaval. France was divided, with Catholics and Protestants fighting each other. This division weakened the country and made it difficult for the French monarchy to maintain control and stability. In the middle of all this, the French kings were trying to make their country stronger and more powerful. They sought to centralize their authority and expand their influence, both within France and beyond its borders. So, why go exploring overseas? The answer lies in the ambitions of the French monarchy and the economic pressures they faced. Well, the kings needed money, and they wanted to take people's minds off the fighting back home. Overseas exploration offered a way to achieve both goals by opening up new trade routes and acquiring valuable resources. A successful colony would bring in lots of cash and make France look strong and united. Colonies were seen as a source of wealth and prestige, and establishing them became a priority for the French crown. Also, during this time, ships and sailing got much better. Advances in shipbuilding technology made it possible to undertake longer and more ambitious voyages. A new type of ship called a caravel made it easier to sail farther and faster. These ships were more maneuverable and could handle the rough seas of the Atlantic, making them ideal for exploration. And a tool called an astrolabe helped sailors figure out where they were, making long journeys much safer. This navigational instrument allowed explorers to determine their latitude by measuring the angle between the horizon and a celestial body, such as the sun or a star. France's explorers were brave adventurers, setting out on perilous journeys across uncharted waters. These men were not just sailors, they were pioneers, driven by a thirst for discovery and a desire to expand the horizons of their homeland. They were driven by ambition, curiosity, and a love of exploring. The allure of the unknown and the promise of new lands and riches spurred them on, despite the many dangers that lay ahead. These pioneers sailed into the unknown, often with very little, and faced incredible dangers. Storms, uncharted territories, and the constant threat of scurvy were just a few of the challenges they encountered. Yet, their determination never wavered. They played a huge role in shaping France's future. Their discoveries and the territories they claimed would become integral parts of the French Empire, influencing the nation's history for centuries to come. One of these brave explorers was Giovanni da Verrazzano. Born in Italy, Verrazzano's adventurous spirit led him to sail under the French flag, embarking on a journey that would leave a lasting legacy. He was Italian, but sailed for France. His unique background and skills made him an invaluable asset to the French crown, eager to expand its influence across the Atlantic. In 1524, he sailed along the east coast of North America, hoping to find a way to get to Asia by sailing west. His journey took him from the Carolinas to Newfoundland, mapping the coastline and interacting with indigenous peoples along the way. He didn't find it, but his trip was still important. Verrazzano's detailed accounts and maps provided valuable information for future explorers and helped establish France's claims in the New World. He explored a huge stretch of coastline and claimed it for France, which paved the way for future French settlements. His efforts laid the groundwork for the expansion of French influence in North America. Another important explorer was Jacques Cartier. Cartier's voyages would further solidify France's presence in the New World and open new opportunities for trade and settlement. He was from Brittany in France. This region, known for its seafaring tradition, produced many skilled sailors and explorers, and Cartier was among the most notable. In 1534, he made several trips to North America. His expeditions were sponsored by the French crown, eager to find new routes and resources. The French king wanted him to find gold and a westward route to Asia. These goals reflected the broader European ambitions of the time, driven by the promise of wealth and new trade routes. Cartier didn't find those things, but he explored the Gulf of St. Lawrence and the St. Lawrence River. His detailed explorations provided a foundation for future French claims and settlements in the region. He also met the native people who lived there. These encounters were significant, as they established initial relationships between the French and the indigenous populations. His explorations helped France claim Canada and laid the groundwork for the fur trade, which would make France a lot of money. The fur trade became a cornerstone of the French colonial economy, fostering further exploration and settlement. France's early attempts at building colonies had good times and bad times. Some trips brought back riches and exciting stories, while others ended in disaster because of sickness, starvation, or fighting with the native people. One of the big successes was a trading post at Tadoussac in 1600. It was a perfect spot for trading furs, especially beaver furs, which were very popular in Europe. The fur trade made France a lot of money, but this success came at a price. The French often took advantage of the native people, trading cheap trinkets and alcohol for valuable furs. They disrupted the native people's lives and brought diseases that made many of them sick. Not all of France's early attempts went well. They tried to start a colony in Florida at a place called Fort Caroline. It was meant to be a safe place for French Protestants who were being treated badly back in France. But the Spanish saw this as a threat and attacked Fort Caroline in 1565. They killed almost everyone there.